Okay, great. Welcome everyone to the Learning Management webinar. I'm so glad that you were able to join us and that we have such a good turnout. And the aim of today is really for you to feel confident after the webinar using it and implementing it in your hospitals. So I'll just start off with an introduction because while I recognize some names here and have met a few of you over the last few weeks, I don't think everyone has seen an email from me yet. But my name is Yosela. I'm one of the doctors at Eolas that joined to head up customer success. So that essentially means that I'm here to support you with how you use Eolas and make sure that you get the best out of it. We've got lots of new features coming out, and the learning management system being one of them. So really excited to share that with you. And also, if you have any questions, please ask away. I will try to keep the webinar to time, as I know how busy you all are. And if there's anything that I don't get to, please email me after. I'll put my email in the chat as well. And yes, let's get into it. So I'm just going to go ahead with showing you the learning management system as a demo, because it's often better to learn by seeing and doing. So it currently lives in our demo space in the activated sections, but you might find it in the deactivated sections of your space. And to activate it, all you need to do is click this notepad icon here and then click activate section. And then it will appear in your activated sections. So while it will be viewable by other users, when they click into it, it will be blank, so there won't be anything in it. And it's worth noting that whenever you create content, it is automatically sort of created as a draft, so unpublished. So you can continue working on it while without it being viewable by users. So in the learning management system, it's essentially a tool that will eventually replace the education portal, and it's supposed to allow you to keep your team trained and also to keep on top of compliance and monitoring progress of module completion and having sort of a record of who has completed what and when. So if we start off with the modules available, if I click on add module, you have the option between one with content and quizzes and then a SCORM file. So I'll show you an example of a SCORM file because I didn't know what it was until when I had a look at this. So if we preview the module, this essentially is an interactive learning module. So you might have one already on your e-learning systems or one that you're building elsewhere. And so the learning management system allows you to upload this as is to Eolas. So just to give you an idea, this is what I mean in terms of it being interactive. This is just an example one. And so, as you know, at the end of these interactive quizzes, sort of content, you would then have a quiz at the end to complete. So that's the SCORM file. And now, if we go back to the content and quizzes, this is an example of one. So essentially, you create a pre-quiz, upload content, and then you have a post-quiz as well. So that means that you can test people's knowledge before they unlock the content, and then you can test their knowledge after they've seen the content. So if we have a look at how to actually do that, and then I will go into how you can have a look at the user analytics and monitor progress and completion as well. So if we start with add module, and we'll go ahead with content and quizzes. And I will call this so that's the module created. So as I've said, as you can see, it's unpublished. So you can't, so no one or no user will be able to see it yet. And with the content and quizzes, in order for you to be able to publish the quiz, you have to add content. So if I was to click the publish button here, it will remind me that I need to add content before it's viewable and available to all users. So if I start by adding content, this again is sort of any file format as you're used to with Eolas. So it could be a web link, it could be a file, PowerPoint, a video, or even the Eolas editor files. So if I just add that file there, and then obviously you can change the file name. Right. And then now I'm able to add the quizzes. So if I start with the pre-training quiz, so as you can see, it's optional. You don't have to have a pre-training quiz or a post-training quiz. But for the purpose of this webinar, I will do that. So if I put in my question as, and then this is where you can also sort of set the pass rate. So I'm going to set it pretty low at 50%. And that is my pre-training quiz added. And now I can add questions. Again, you can see this is in draft mode. So if I just add the question again, and then you can add answers by clicking add option. And then add another option because you have to have at least 2 sort of answers. And then now that I've got at least 2 answers, I can select which one is the correct answer. So I'm going to go ahead with this. And then you're able to put in an answer explanation if you like. You don't necessarily have to. And then I click Save Questions. So if I wanted to add more questions, I would just put Add Question at the bottom there as well. So that's my pre-training quiz saved. And then if I wanted to do a post-training quiz, so it could be the same thing again. And then because it's the post-training quiz, I will make the pass rate slightly higher and create quiz again. So it's just the same as when we were creating the pre-training quiz. So I'll go ahead and just add the questions in again. So add option here. And then select the correct answer again, just by clicking here. And then I won't put an answer explanation in this time and just save my questions. So great. Now I have a pre-training quiz, post-training quiz, and then the content. So this is obviously the admin view, as you know. For the user view, we can then click the home button and then see what a user would see. But before we do that, we just need to remember to hit publish. And then that's the module published. So if we click on the home button, just so we can see what a user would be able to see, and then click into the learning management system, and then DSM tutorial. So again, this is the pre-content quiz. So as you can see, the content is not available as I have not completed the pre-content quiz. And I will select the correct answer. Just so you can, well, let's start with the wrong answer, just so you can see what happens. And the 100% refers to me completing all of the quiz as opposed to my answer. So when I click submit all answers, it will tell me that I have failed and will automatically bring me back to the quiz to try again. So I can select the correct answer, submit my answers, and I have passed. So then this then means that I unlock the content. So the important thing with the content is that you are not able to sort of bypass it. So if we go back to this example one, for example, this has an intro video and I need to watch the video all the way through for it to have unlocked the post-content quiz. And the same with this policy document. So I would need to have scrolled all the way to the bottom and you will also, the user will also have the option or will need to sort of click something to say that they've acknowledged the policy as well, which is great for compliance. So if we go back to the sample one that I made, and then I have a look at the content that I uploaded, and then as you can see, the post quiz has now been unlocked. So if I click through the post quiz, And we all know the right answer, so I'll just submit that. And great, I've passed. When that happens, a user will automatically get a certificate to download. So they can click yes, and then this will download onto their computer. It's also available after. So if I click no for now, I can see, so for my module, I can then download the certificate here, or I can do so in the Me tab. So if we go back to the admin view, this is now where we'll cover analytics. So you can either track and monitor progress by user or by module. So if we start off with by user, this is a list of all of the people who work at Eolas. And if I wanted to look at what Adam has been up to, for example, I might look in, and then I can download this as a CSV file. So that means that I can have that information as an Excel spreadsheet. And I can see what date he completed each module as well. And also if it's in progress. In terms of if you wanted to monitor it by module, so if I click on the module and click module completion, I am then able to see everyone who has completed the module or who hasn't, and again, download this as a CSV or Excel spreadsheet. It's also worth noting that in order to protect the integrity of user completion, once a module has been published, you can't add or delete content from it. You are able to edit or add in questions. So if, for example, I went into it, I could add more questions if necessary, but I wouldn't be able to add in extra content. I'd be able to change the file, but I wouldn't be able to add extra content as well. So that's everything from me in terms of showing you what it looks like. I hope that you have a better understanding of how it works, and I'll now leave some time for some questions. So please feel free to put the questions in the chat, or you can raise your hand and then unmute. Okay, I'll start with Melissa. Melissa, if you could unmute and ask your question, please.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Are you able to delete the files once you've put them on? So you can delete them and then add on a new file if you wanted to change the content?
Yes, you could.
Okay. I'm afraid I've got another question, if that's okay.
That's okay, go ahead.
So when you monitor compliance of when people have undertaken a certain module, is there a timer on it? So, for example, I would want somebody to do a module to repeat that module in a year's time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And this is something that has been fed back to us. So this is a new feature and we're updating it based on feedback as well. So that is in the next cycle in terms of having expiry options available so that people can see what's due for renewal and complete it as well.
Okay, thank you. I have one final question, if that's okay. When you create the certificates for completion for the team members that are undertaking this, can we edit those certificates so we can brand them for our own service?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's something else that's been fed back to us, and we're working on releasing it in the new cycle. But thank you for sharing it.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And Anu, next, please.
Hi, thanks for this. I think I may have missed it, but I think when you were doing the walkthrough, it said that you couldn't delete a module once you'd started writing it. You can only edit it. So how do we, let's say if a module's out of date or we just want to remove it altogether, can we do that? So
do you mean in terms of once the module is published, if you're able to sort of hide it or delete it?
Yeah. Or if we can just, can we take it down? It said somewhere on the screen, I may have misread it, but it said something about it can't be deleted, but only edited.
Yeah, so the idea is that if a user has completed something at that point in time, the module existed, and they've got a certificate that says that they completed XY module, you are able to sort of hide it, but in terms of deleting it completely, that's not possible at the moment.
Okay, but we can hide it if it
Yes.
becomes obsolete. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And Christine, I can see your question. Yes, so this feature is part of your existing license. You don't need to purchase it separately, and you can have, so anyone who's an admin of your space can add modules if they're a full admin as well. And David, your question about the SCORM zip file. So the SCORM, when you uploaded it, it will tell you if it's like ready. So if it's like suitable, because with the SCORM file that we have, it's as in the test one that I showed you, it's compatible for mobile, for example. So it might just be that the zip file that you've got sort of isn't completely correct, but happy to help you with that, and I'll send you an email. Michael, introducing a randomization of questions. Yeah, so you absolutely can choose the questions that you include in the post quiz, because yes, from experience, definitely it is a lot easier if you have failed and you know all the answers to then go back with the post quiz and just put that through. So the questions in the pre quiz and the post quiz don't necessarily have to be the same. Does anyone have any other questions? Yes. So Christina, thank you again. It depends on how, if Eolas, for example, so some trusts have Eolas as like an icon on their desktop. So that could be quite easy to, or you could put it in your ESR as well, like a link to Eolas. And exactly right, the LMS is built with mandatory training in mind. So Spiros, yeah, so with the learning management system, it's just the same as admins, so full admins and limited admins, so as normal on the platform. So if you had a limited admin that managed the learning management section, then they'd be able to add content to it. But if they had other sections that they were managing and you hadn't given them access to the learning management system, then they wouldn't be able to unless they were a full admin. For the questions in the chat, if I haven't answered them fully, please feel free to ask again or follow up. Yes, Michael, that's a great point. So yes, Melissa, so what I meant is in the ESR, you can have a link to Eolas, which means that if someone clicked on it, they would be then directed to Eolas to complete the training. And then going back to your point, Michael, in terms of directing people to training, in the same way that you have shortcuts with guidelines, you should be able as well, if someone's having a look at a guideline, create, or in a space or in a section, then have it link to the relevant training as well, or relevant training module in the LMS. So if, for example, someone is looking at your sepsis guidelines and you have sort of mandatory training on sepsis, underneath the guidelines, you could have a link directing them to the relevant module in the LMS on Eolas. And just to say, this isn't a one-way street, so your feedback is incredibly useful, particularly as we build it out more. So if there's anything that we haven't covered that you would like to see in the LMS, please email me or contact support. I'll just stay on to the end. Great to see that we've kept to time, just in case anyone else has any questions. But please feel free to drop off. You're welcome, David. No worries, Melissa.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Very welcome.
Oh, sorry, Sola. Did you say this is live now?
Sorry, say that again.
Did you say this is live now to start?
Yes, it is. So it currently lives in the deactivated section in your space. And if you just click the notepad icon here, you can then activate it. So if I scroll to the bottom, it's probably at the bottom here in deactivated sections.
Okay. Amazing. All right. Thanks very much.
Welcome.
Yeah, bye.
Hi, Sola. Just a quick question.
Yes.
Can you, if you're a full admin, can you manage how many departments you want to share your learning module across? Or is it, if you open it, it's open to everyone? Or can you specify a specific number of departments you want to share it with?
No, so it would be open or viewable once you've published it to all users in the space. But if you wanted to have it for specific departments, then I would recommend then having it in that department space. But definitely we can look into in terms of user groups and assigning training or having it only viewable by certain users.
Okay, great. Thank you.
No worries. Christina, so if you're not an admin, you can't activate it, but you can contact your admins too, or just send me an email if you're not able to, and I'll contact them for you. In terms of users accessing the LMS, no, so only the users who have access to your space would be able to access the LMS. If, for example, you've let other users from other trusts access your space, then they'd be able to access the LMS. So it's only people who are in your space or have access to it that can then see the LMS that you've created. Team training generation only to certain. Michael, sorry, I'm not sure I quite understand.
Yes, so there's I think the question is very similar to the one the previous person mentioned about accessing. We know that many of us as users of Eolas have access to other trusts through permissions, which we've been gathered to look at different things. And we do that to scour different policies, which means that by definition, we also have access to their spaces, which may include their LMSs as well. This obviously has beneficial effects, but it also has issues in terms of keeping certain training unique to particular trusts. So that's all I was really asking that question. How do we limit the accessibility of your LMS to certain cohorts of your users? And then the second thing in terms of the governance is about who can generate new training, who has the access to that ability. I assuming that's the admin and those with admin control, of which we have quite a few within our trust. I think individual, I think within the trust that I work in, there's about 20 of us have kind of an admin role in, because we work in different areas and we just need to make sure we're all together on this. So we have that certain level of governance regarding the training and the quality of training that goes in. And then, as mentioned before, it's very important, obviously, that the training is kept recent and links to the following stuff. So you need to make sure that that is reviewed, and that's all part of our usual LMSs that we have within a trust. It's just very important that if on when we transition over to using the Eolas system, that is a function that is in there, because as administrators, we need to make sure that's the case. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you for explaining. Sorry, the fire alarm is just going off in the background. Let me know if you can't hear me properly. But essentially, the LMS is supposed to make your lives easier from an admin perspective. So we're not trying to change the process in which you do things, and it should be a smooth transition in terms of what you're currently doing and what you can do on Eolas. So in terms of how often you review training modules and how you sort of update them. In terms of sort of the module maybe expiring or going out of date, we can definitely put things in to support with that, with whether it be sort of notification saying that this training module has been live for X months. Is it still valid? Do you need to update it, etc. And then in terms of sort of who can add modules to the learning management system, when you have given someone full admin permission in your space, we're assuming that you're happy for them to sort of sit across every function in your space. If not, then I would have a think about reviewing who has full admin rights in your space, and maybe it should only be people who have had like governance training, for example. And then if there were specific people who you wanted to manage the LMS, but you don't want them to have access to other admin bits, then they can be a limited admin in that they only manage the content in the LMS and other relevant sections if necessary. And in the same way, if you have people who you want to manage guidelines or contacts and you don't want them to have anything to do with LMS, then I would recommend making them a limited admin so that they only manage the relevant sections. Lastly, your last point about other users sort of having a look at the having access to your space. I don't know if you regularly review the users in your space in terms of, because I know sometimes you might let people in to have a look at what you've done so that they can replicate it. But I would sort of have a think about if you needed to sort of have given them like a temporary login, for example, and then say that by this date that they will be removed. So Christina, with the education and learning portal, so that is, I guess, the old version. We are planning to replace that with the LMS. They currently sit alongside each other just because we know people have content in the education and learning portal, but the LMS is a much better version of it. And face-to-face training. When you talk about face-to-face training, do you mean as in how does the LMS sort of feature in that? Or sorry, could you just explain a bit further?
Yes, hi. Thanks
Hi.
for answering all my questions.
Oh, you're welcome.
So what I mean, because obviously at the moment our LMS, as I said before, is ESR, right? So everything is recorded on ESR. People can go on ESR and do e-learnings, but they can also book themselves onto training. And then from a trainer point of view, I will go back into, as an admin, into ESR, and I will say, yeah, this person has attended the training, has completed the training, and then we close the class. So if you were to go in and search for this person, you can clearly see all the e-learning history, not only from an e-learning point of view, but also all the classes they have attended. So how does it work in this LMS system?
That's interesting. So we've only done it from like an e-learning point of view, but in terms of adding a feature that allows you to see if people have booked face-to-face training, that's a really good point of feedback, and I'll pass that on to my colleague who built it.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. If no one has any more questions, I will end the webinar there. But thank you again for joining, and this should be the first of many.
Thank you.
No worries. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.